So one thing I found recently is doing an OMAD approach to dieting as part of your lifestyle is such a cheat code. I've been doing it for quite a while now, and after I've experienced my weight loss kind of slowing down, stalling over time, especially as I've gotten into my 40s. I started out, I was really, really heavy. So I've lost well over 100 pounds now. And I started out as on a carnivore diet. That's what really kick-started my weight loss. And I experimented with different fasting techniques over time, and I made a lot of mistakes and did a lot of learning along the way. I tried different fasting techniques. I tried different carnivore styles. I tried all this stuff. And literally over the course of years, it took me time to make the little tweaks and adjustments to find what works for me. And, I did a lot of reading, a lot of research, and I wanted to try too many things too fast or too much all at once, or I'd get impatient. So I would try, carnivore diet, and then I would try to throw some fasting in there. I would do this approach, and I would only do it for a couple weeks and be like, I'm going to try this thing now. And I think that's kind of a normal thing when you're trying to achieve a goal and you try new things. And I was certainly doing that. And so I would get on OMAD for a little bit, do a couple weeks of it, not understanding it fully and how it works and how to approach it and things like that. And I'd come off it. And 2 weeks or whatever I was doing is really not long enough to really see results. But in my little ADHD brain, I was seeing great results because I was on a carnivore diet, and I was not taking in the calories. I was getting a ton, as I was used to, because I wasn't eating carbs. I was getting adequate protein. I was going into ketosis for the first time in my life and seeing all these great results. But I wanted to add something to that and try different things and all that. And I just was like, none of this fasting would work. Don't get me wrong. But I wouldn't stick to something. I wouldn't give it time to really take effect and see how it would work. And I loved fasting. I know it was something that I could do, but there's so many different ways of doing fasting. And I was just kind of ADHD about it and trying to do different things too fast and not sticking to something consistently, which is weird because that's the approach I took with the carnivore diet when I started that. Even though there's different ways of doing the carnivore diet, I was pretty consistent with that, just doing an animal-based diet consistently over years, literally, without really making any changes. Sometimes I would do the beef, bacon, butter, and eggs approach, which I think is probably my favorite version of the carnivore diet. Or I would do the whole kitchen sink kind of carnivore diet where I'm just eating anything that was an animal, whether it's beef, pork, fish, poultry, whatever. Still kind of do that now and then. Lion diet, did that for a little bit. That's too much, too deep into the weeds, too you want to use the word restrict. I hate using the word restrictive, but lion diet, man, it works, but it's not for me. And that's what it's all about, is finding the approach of something that works for you. So it was just, I digress. I was really, pretty good and consistent about sticking to a carnivore diet and seeing things through. But when it came time to pairing it with some fasting techniques, I was kind of all over the place. And I did videos on it talking about this is great and that's great, without even really seeing the full benefits, because I didn't stick to it. And only years deep into it did I really start sticking with different fasting techniques to find what worked best for me. Because on my carnivore diet, after a while, I got to a point where I lost, 80 pounds or whatever, 75, 80 pounds, and I'd kind of stall out. And then I would try different things. Like, I want to see if I can do a bulk on a carnivore diet, because I'd want to make a video or something on that. And I'd gain some weight back really, really prematurely. And I would try to push my limits and see how much food I could eat on a carnivore diet without getting fat again. And I found it was quite considerable. I could kind of go kind of nuts on a carnivore diet as far as how much I was actually eating. And I would not gain weight, or I would gain some weight but very little. You know, I never bounced all the way back to where I would get, you know, fat again like I was when I started. What brought me to it. But the older I get and the more deep into it I get, I realize that I really don't want to gain weight anymore. I really don't want to go on these kind of bulks and stuff like that. You know, building muscle is tougher, especially the older you get. And it's really, you know, it's kind of a slow moving process. And I've learned so much about it over time, and realized building muscle is something you can do even while you're kind of dieting and things like that. It's going to go slow no matter what, as long as you're getting adequate nutrition, you're getting your protein in, you're eating the right kind of foods. Even if you're, you know, kind of trying to lose weight at the same time, lose body fat, you know, you can still build, as long as you're lifting consistently and getting your exercise and eating adequately, you can still do that. You can still build muscle, you know, through protein and working out and eating right and everything. So I wanted to find a way to finish off my fat loss, and I still am not completely done finishing off like my cut. Like, I don't like using words like bulking and cutting anymore, but my point now that I want to get to is find that lean point that I'm really happy with and stick there. I'm not trying to get super shredded stage bodybuilder looking whatever. Not like I'm even that much of a genetic freak where I could be a bodybuilder. I am not, and 99.9% of you are not. I'm not trying to get like to that point of shredded where it starts to affect your hormones and things like that. I'm just trying to stay like beach body all the time, I guess, kind of looking, or you know, look and feel athletic, you know, mobile, be able to stay physical. I'm a physical person now, you know, again, always was when I was younger, but went through an era of my life where I wasn't, where I was fat and out of shape. I was kind of an immobile slug. Now, you know, I'm getting that energy, you know, for the last several years. Not I'm getting it now, but having that energy and that physicality again, I want to, you know, just grow that and enhance that, and, you know, see what I'm capable of even into my 40s. So I was trying to figure out, all right, I'm kind of at this point with, you know, I've got my nutrition dialed in. I know what style of, or what diet methodology, being, you know, a ketogenic, animal-based, you know, low carb, carnivore, whatever you want to call it, I know that works for me. I know that is the way I'm going to eat the rest of my life. What can I do to take it to the next level? And so I tried experimenting with different fasting techniques. And I will go out, I'm going to say this, there's no right or wrong answer to this. I love them all. I know that fasting is going to be something that I have in my life forever. It's going to be something that I incorporate for the rest of my life. I think fasting is such a cheat code, such a hack, no matter how you do it. I've tried the 16 and 8 version, basically two meals a day. OMAD is what I call it, because I am a firm believer that, like, one of the first things you should do is stop snacking. So a lot of people have their fasting window and it'll work, but they'll, you know, if they give themselves an 8-hour fasting window, a lot of people end up just grazing through that entire 8 hours, and they're still taking in as many calories, if not more, than they were before. Because believe it or not, I've heard some carnivore people online say that calories aren't real or they don't matter, and I don't think that's a smart thing to say. I am no scientist or expert, and I know that calories do not paint the entire picture. They're not the end all be all. Eating, a calorie deficit of donuts and candy bars and junk food, that is not the same as eating, a calorie deficit of, animal source products, whole foods, things of that nature, from a nutrition standpoint. So the calories do matter. You can lose fat no matter what if you're in a calorie deficit, but, nutrition in the quality of your foods also plays a big part in it as well, as far as how you're going to look and feel and how healthy you're going to be. But anyway, back to my main point. People would be, okay, I'm going to eat this 8-hour window and fast for 16 hours, and they end up just eating a shitload. You can easily put down 3,000, 4,000 calories in 8 hours. I can. I have a big appetite. I'm a bigger guy, and I've always had a big appetite. So maybe that is just a me thing, but I know there's a lot of people who can put down a lot of food in 8 hours. I can put down a lot of food in less than that. You know what I mean? Which is why OMAD works for me so well. I'll get to that. I have tried alternate day fasting, which is another method that I think is awesome. If I wasn't doing OMAD, I would say that would probably be my favorite fasting methodology. My problem with OMAD is, or not OMAD, with ADF, alternate day fasting, is I do have a family. I do enjoy eating with them at night and things like that, and having dinner and that meal time with my kids and with my wife, and having every other day where I'm just not partaking in that. Even if I'm sitting there while they're eating, there's only so many it's psychological, human behavior, whatever you want to call it, but there's something about my family having these certain feelings about me not eating with them, whether it's rational or not. And I've heard all the stuff like, oh, just stand up for yourself and tell them, too bad, this is the way it's going to be, set that boundary. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure, I could do that. You know what I mean? Oh, this is the way it's going to be, and you guys suck it up or whatever. But I just didn't want to do that to them. You know what I mean? I do like to eat with my kids and things like that. I do want to spend that quality time having a meal with my children. So I did ADF for a while. I saw fantastic results on it. It's kind of a great methodology because you take that day off, you give yourself that break. Your body goes into that autophagy. If you don't know what autophagy is, it's kind of, in a simple, layman's terms, you're giving your body a break to kind of cleanse itself. You're digesting fat. You're going into a state of like ketosis. And your body's kind of cleaning up dead cell, toxic cells and things like that. And OMAD does the same thing, but extended fasting periods kind of put you in the state of autophagy. If you want a better explanation of it, look it up. Maybe I'll do some better, fresh research on it, and I'll do a video on it and talk about it. But I just found that, OMAD, I can kind of dial in through the day, do my work, do my things I need to take care of, and I still get to sit down and I get to have that dinner with my family and enjoy myself. There's not an entire day of it either, because with ADF, what I found I was doing, and ADF's nice because you do get more meals over time on ADF, but basically you can kind of go nuts one day and you're feasting. And here's another problem with it: a lot of people go a little too nuts, and they just have an all-you-can-eat buffet all day on their feasting days, and then they fast the next day. So it's kind of a binge and then nothing kind of a situation. And you know, you can do a lot of damage. I mean, like you can put down 4,000, 5,000 calories in a day, fast the entire next day, and you know, you're still kind of in, you know, for me, I'd still be in a deficit. If I ate 5,000 calories every other day and I'd fast the other days, I was still in a deficit because I'm eating like 2,500 calories. It's a bit nuts to think you're going to be on a carnivore diet eating like 5,000 calories in a day. It can happen for sure. That's a lot of food, especially if you're eating clean, whole, carnivore kind of animal-based nutrition. But with OMAD, I get that option. I get that ability to eat every day. I get to eat that meal with my family every day, and it can be a hearty meal. I can eat a lot of food in that one meal. And because it's one meal every day, I'm getting 7 meals a week. I kind of want to make the most of them. There's just this built-in psychological thing that it's like, I got one meal today. I want to get my money's worth, right? I want to make it worth it. You know what I mean? I want it to be healthy. I want it to be fulfilling. I want it to taste good. But I'm not going to waste it. I tend not to want to waste that meal on going to friggin' McDonald's or something. You know what I mean? I tend not to want to go eat a bunch of crap with that one meal that I have in the day. Now, if that happens, it's great. You can just bounce back the next day. You have your next meal. You can recover from that one meal so quick. And even that one meal, if you kind of screw up that day, you probably didn't eat in a deficit, or even if you did, you were close, or you didn't eat in a surplus, but even if you did, you kind of, it probably wasn't too much, because it's tough to put down a shitload of calories in one meal. It's tough to get in a huge surplus when you're eating one meal. Can be done. I've seen it done it myself. Pretty rare though, and you're probably not going to do it on a consistent basis either. I'm sure there's people who have, you know, if you can think it, somebody's done it. But it's such a hack, because even if you do kind of eat in a surplus for that one meal, the odds of you doing it for 7 straight days in a row, unlikely. You know, I've had totally irresponsible days with my OMAD approach, and look, I'm a flexible guy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm 100% strict carnivore eater 100% of the time. I'm human. I've got a family. You know, I fall off the wagon once in a while. I'm not perfect. It's fine. I don't stress about it like I used to. And I can always bounce back the next day on that one meal and eat a lot cleaner. So that's what makes it such a hack. That's what makes it such a cheat code, is the ability to bounce back, the ability to even be a little flexible if you don't want, and you don't even have to do a carnivore diet. You know, that's just what I eat. But I know plenty of people who eat OMAD and they're not carnivore. They're not keto. They're not any of that. They eat carbs. They eat what they want to eat. And I do eat what I want to eat. But, you know, if people want to eat, you know, their standard American diet, kind of, you know, hidden fast food or eating pasta or whatever they want to do. I know people who eat pizza damn near every day on an OMAD diet. You know, I would never recommend that. I would never teach that. I would never do a video talking about how great that is ever in my life. But I know people who've done it, and they are able to still lose body fat because they're not going into that calorie surplus on an OMAD diet, because it is hard for people to sit there and put down 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day, every day, on a consistent basis. You know, that's just a lot. It's hard work. That's a lot of food. You know what I mean? Can be done. Anything can happen, man. But people, you never underestimate people's ability to be gluttonous. I'm just saying, you kind of have to actually work at it with that approach. So if OMAD is something that you're interested in, I recommend doing it. I recommend giving it a shot, no matter what your dietary approach is. You know, you can work your way to it. You understand it takes some getting used to. There's a couple weeks of an adjustment as your hunger hormones, your ghrelin and stuff like that kind of take effect, and you have to kind of put them on hold. You are going to get hunger signals. That does not mean you're starving. You are not going to starve yourself to death unless you're eating a lean cuisine TV dinner every day and calling that your OMAD, or, you know, having a turkey sandwich homemade and that's your OMAD, a can of chicken, whatever it is. Like, you get that, you're gonna, you know, that's a little different. You know, you need to make sure you're actually eating and getting in some calories. But a lot of you probably even have enough body fat like I did, where even if you did go in a super deficit, you'd be all right, because you have enough body fat and you can go into ketosis and kind of live off that. So that's another approach that I know people have taken. They've gone on a pretty minimal diet when they have excess, you know, I'm talking excess body fat, 50, 100 pounds of body fat they can lose. If you're a relatively lean person, please don't do that. You know, don't go into an extreme, crazy deficit. But anyway, I kind of rambled a little bit in this video, and that's fine. But the point I wanted to make is, if you're interested in OMAD diet, it is an OMAD approach to dieting, and OMAD fasting, or any other kind of fasting. I highly recommend it. I think fasting is a cheat code. I think OMAD is a huge cheat code. I think most people can do it. I'm sure there's some who just cannot. And that's, you know, is what it is, but you never know till you try it. I recommend everybody give it a shot. Actually stick to it. Give it a couple months. See what kind of results you have. Be smart about it. Make sure you're getting adequate protein. Don't listen to the crap about you can only digest X amount of protein in one time. That's a bunch of horse shit. I know plenty of people who have been able to build muscle, including myself, while on OMAD. Your body will figure it out when it comes to absorbing the protein and getting its usage out of it. Make sure you're getting adequate fat. If you're doing carbs, fine, whatever's your prerogative. I'm not going to be much help to you because I don't eat them. So there's probably other channels that talk about doing OMAD on a standard American diet methodology. So, but I recommend giving it a shot. If you have any questions about it, or you're interested in trying it, need some help, hit me up down below in the comments. I'll do my best to answer you. I'll definitely answer you. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one later.